We spend our entire gardening lives looking up. We obsess over the canopy above us. We count the fragile leaves. We track the shifting angles of the summer sun. We meticulously prune the upper branches. And we stare at the small, hard green tomatoes, silently praying for them to turn red. And all the while we wonder why our neighbor, the one who barely seems to lift a finger, the one who never buys the expensive soil amendments, manages to pull in a jungle of a harvest every single July, while we are left fighting for scraps. We blame the unpredictable weather. We blame the seed genetics. We even blame ourselves, thinking we just do not possess that mythical green thumb. But the truth of the garden is brutally, undeniably simple. It is not the sun, it is not the soil type. It is not even the expensive seeds you bought. The secret to a massive, overflowing harvest has absolutely nothing to do with what is happening above the ground. It is entirely about the silent, invisible war happening underneath the dirt. Think of it as plumbing. If you triple the root mass of a plant, you triple the harvest. That is not just a gardening opinion. That is basic biological physics. A massive, sprawling, aggressive root system acts like a subterranean highway. It pulls exponentially more water, more nitrogen, more phosphorus, and more calcium straight into the heart of the plant. A weak, shallow root system will starve a plant to death, no matter how many gallons of premium, expensive liquid fertilizer you pour on top of it. Today, I'm going to show you a recipe that changes the plumbing of your garden forever. It costs less than $1. You do not buy it at a store. You brew it right in your kitchen in exactly 30 minutes. You water it into your soil just one time, and the root system underneath your plants will absolutely explode. Not in a matter of weeks, in a matter of days. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will not just have the recipe for the most powerful root stimulator on earth. You will finally understand why the multi-billion-dollar garden industry will never ever sell this to you in a bottle. Walk into any mega garden center, and you are immediately greeted by the fertilizer aisle. It is a massive wall of brightly colored plastic jugs, all promising overnight miracles. You will see little plastic tubs of rooting hormone powder selling for $15 or $20 for just a few measly grams. You will see liquid biostimulants locked behind glass cases, carrying premium price tags and promising to deliver a lush green paradise to your backyard. But here is the dark reality of that brightly lit aisle. Almost everything you are looking at on those shelves is entirely dead. Synthetic fertilizers are nothing more than mineral salts isolated in a sterile laboratory. They are cold, chemical approximations of nature, designed to sit on a dusty warehouse shelf in the middle of an Arizona summer at 110 degrees. Wait 3 long years and still be the exact same sterile product when you finally twist the cap off. The synthetic rooting powders they push on you use artificial auxins. Those are man-made chemicals designed to mimic the natural hormones plants use to tell their cells to divide and grow. They sell you dead dirt, and then they sell you synthetic chemicals to prop that dead dirt up. It is a brilliant, highly lucrative business model. It keeps you coming back season after season, treating the symptoms while the underlying living ecosystem of your garden slowly starves to death. What we are about to make today is the exact opposite of that aisle. The technical name for it is fermented yeast water. But honestly, that name does not do it justice at all. What we are actually brewing is a living biostimulant. It is a raw, breathing liquid packed with active microorganisms, natural plant hormones, essential B vitamins, enzymes, and amino acids. It is closer to a biological steroid than a traditional fertilizer. We are going to achieve the exact same cellular division that those $20 chemical powders promise, except we are going to do it for the price of a single packet of baking yeast. So, why is this not on the shelf? If it works so incredibly well, if the science is absolutely undeniable, why does the garden center hide it from you? The answer is twofold. First, true biology cannot be bottled. A bottle of living yeast is not a stable commercial product. It is a breathing entity. The moment yeast comes into contact with sugar and water, it wakes up from its slumber. It starts eating. It starts rapidly multiplying. It produces carbon dioxide and alcohol. If a greedy corporation tried to bottle this and put it on a retail shelf, the pressure would build and build until the plastic ruptured. Within a single week, they would not have a gardening product. They would have a sticky, exploding grenade. The only commercial companies that do try to ship live cultures have to use tiny, refrigerated pouches that cost up to $70 and expire in mere months. The second reason is even simpler than the first. It absolutely destroys their business model. You only need to learn this recipe once. After today, you will never buy a chemical rooting hormone again. You will never buy an expensive seedling starter again. The entire profit center of selling small bottles of liquid biology to home gardeners is completely wiped out, replaced by a cheap packet of yeast you pick up in the baking aisle right next to the flour. The shelf cannot hold it, and the shelf cannot profit from it. So we bypass their broken system entirely. We make it ourselves. The hero of this backyard revolution is a microscopic powerhouse known as Saccharomyces cerevisiae. You know it by its common everyday name, ordinary baker yeast. It is the exact same beige powder you use to make a warm loaf of bread or a homemade pizza dough. Most people think of yeast as a simple, single-purpose ingredient. You add some sugar, it makes some bubbles, your dough rises, and the story ends there. But that is completely missing the profound magic of what this organism actually is. Yeast is a single-celled fungus, and like all living fungi in the natural world, it pumps out an incredibly complex cocktail of chemical compounds. While it grows and multiplies in the dark, this is not some old folk tale your grandfather made up to save a few pennies. Peer-reviewed research published in highly respected scientific journals like Crop Science, Agronomy, and Frontiers in Industrial Microbiology has meticulously documented the exact composition of this fungal cocktail. And the results are absolutely staggering. Let me break down exactly what happens in the dirt when you pour this living water into your soil.
Now, listen carefully to the steps. The recipe is wonderfully simple, but the small details are where almost everyone makes a fatal mistake. You are dealing with a living, breathing organism. Treat it with respect, and it will reward you with an unimaginable harvest. Treat it carelessly, and you will just be pouring dead, sugary water onto the ground. You will need exactly 3 things: 1 liter of lukewarm water, 2 tablespoons of dry baker yeast, which is roughly 20 grams, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. You can use white sugar or brown sugar. The yeast honestly does not care. That is the entire ingredient list. The total cost is mere pennies. Step 1 is the most critical moment in the entire process. The temperature of your water is quite literally a matter of life or death. Your water must be lukewarm, right around normal human body temperature. Run it over the inside of your wrist. If it feels completely neutral, neither noticeably warm nor cool, you have hit the absolute sweet spot. If your water is hot, you will literally boil the yeast alive and kill the entire colony before it ever has a chance to wake up. If the water is cold from the fridge, the yeast cells will remain locked in their deep dormant state and absolutely nothing will happen. Find that narrow, perfect window of gentle warmth.
Step 2 is the combination. Pour your perfect lukewarm water into a clean glass jar or a simple plastic jug. Add the 2 tablespoons of yeast. Add the 1 tablespoon of sugar. Now take a long spoon and stir it vigorously until every single grain is fully dissolved into the liquid. Let me be perfectly clear about the sugar. The sugar is not for your tomato plants. Plants have absolutely no use for raw, refined sugar in the soil. The sugar is the spark. It is the immediate food source that wakes up the dormant yeast colony and commands it to start eating and multiplying. Without the sugar, there is no fermentation. Without fermentation, there are no root hormones, no amino acids, and no magic whatsoever. Do not skip the sugar. Step 3 is what I like to call the vampire rule. Cover the top of your jar, but absolutely do not seal it airtight. Remember, fermenting yeast produces a significant amount of gas. If you screw a tight metal lid onto a glass jar, the pressure will build relentlessly, and the glass will shatter all over your kitchen counter. You need to use a loose lid resting gently on top, or a paper towel secured tightly with a rubber band, or a breathable piece of cloth. The goal here is to let the carbon dioxide safely escape while completely blocking out ultraviolet light. UV rays from the bright sun are highly destructive to naked, multiplying biology. If you leave this jar on a sunny windowsill, the harsh sun will sterilize the yeast before it even finishes its job. Treat this jar like a vampire. Hide it away in a dark cabinet, a closed pantry, or a deeply shaded corner of your kitchen. Step 4 is patience. Wait exactly 30 to 40 minutes, no more and no less. You are looking for 2 very specific visual signs of life. When you open that dark cabinet, you should see a thick, foamy beige cap forming on the top surface of the water. You should also hear a very faint fizzing sound and see tiny bubbles rising continuously from the bottom of the glass. If you see the foam and you hear the bubbles, congratulations, you have successfully created life. The colony is actively multiplying. The hormones, the vitamins, and the amino acids are now deeply suspended in the water. Your biological concentrate is finally ready.
Step 5 is dilution, and this step is absolutely mandatory. Whatever you do, do not take this concentrated jar and pour it directly onto the base of a young plant. The biological load in that jar is so intense, so heavily concentrated, that it will shock the delicate soil microbiome and physically burn the fine microscopic root hairs of your plant. We must dilute it at a ratio of 1 to 10. Pour your 1 liter of active yeast concentrate into a large bucket containing 10 liters of plain water. If you can use natural rainwater or filtered dechlorinated tap water, that is absolutely perfect. Stir it gently to combine. You now have 11 liters of finished, highly potent, ready-to-apply living biostimulant. Apply this mixture directly to the soil at the base of the plant. Soak the dirt thoroughly until it is fully saturated, but stop right before it becomes a flooded, muddy swamp. Do not spray this mixture on the leaves. Foliar feeding requires a completely different biological approach and formulation. Today, we are feeding the subterranean highway, so we only water the dirt. Timing is everything when it comes to biology. This is not a weekly routine fertilizer. This is a highly strategic biological strike. You only need to use this 3 times in a plant's entire life to completely alter its destiny in the garden. Strike 1 happens at transplant, when you move a fragile, delicate seedling from a comfortable plastic tray into the harsh, unforgiving ground. The plant goes into immediate panic mode. It is desperately searching for a way to anchor itself in the new earth. If you drench the planting hole with this yeast water right as you set it in the ground, the pure auxins will trigger an explosive root expansion within 48 hours. The plant completely skips the dreaded transplant shock phase and immediately takes an aggressive hold of the soil.
Strike 2 happens at the very start of flowering. When a plant pushes out its very first blossoms, it is making a complex biological calculation about exactly how much heavy fruit its current root system can physically support. If the roots are massive, the plant confidently holds on to the flowers. If the roots are weak, it gets scared and drops them to the ground. Hit it with yeast water right now and you guarantee maximum fruit set. Strike 3 happens when the first tiny fruits actually appear. Producing a heavy, water-filled tomato takes an immense, exhausting toll on the energy reserves of a plant. A final dose of yeast water provides the pre-digested nutrients required to swell that fruit to its absolute maximum glorious size. 3 applications per growing season, that is all it takes. Used correctly, it completely transforms the foundational architecture of the plant. Used too often, and you risk throwing the delicate fungal and bacterial balance of your native soil completely out of whack. In the biological garden, less is always more. This ancient recipe works absolute miracles on tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, eggplants, juicy strawberries, heavy squash, and almost every flowering ornamental shrub in your backyard. It is especially profound and noticeable on anything you have started directly from seed or grown from a fragile, tender cutting. Within 72 hours of that very first application, you will walk out to your garden with your morning coffee and notice a visible, undeniable shift. The plant will look incredibly perked up. The leaves will stand at strict attention, reaching aggressively for the morning sky. The green color will deepen into a rich, dark, vibrant emerald. Within a single week, you will witness completely new growth pushing out. You will not just see fragile new leaves, but a visible, sturdy thickening of the main stem, like a tree trunk bracing for a heavy load. But the real magic, the true breathtaking miracle of this method is happening entirely underground, hidden from your eyes. Down in the cool dark, the root system is branching out aggressively.
Lateral roots are firing off in every conceivable direction, grabbing tight hold of the earth, mining deeply for locked-away minerals, building an unstoppable biological engine that will carry that plant through the hottest, driest days of the brutal summer. And in 8 to 10 weeks, when the heavy fruit set truly begins, you will finally understand why this secret has been quietly passed around in the hidden, seasoned corners of the gardening world for generations. You will reach out and pull a massive, glowing tomato off a vine that feels impossibly heavy in the palm of your hand. And at the end of the long season, when the autumn frost finally comes and you pull that spent pepper plant out of the cold earth, you will look down and find a root ball the size of a soccer ball. That is what tripling your roots actually does. That is what working in harmony with natural biology instead of buying synthetic chemicals to fight it truly looks like. The absolute bottom line is this. You do not need a $40 bottle of synthetic rooting hormone engineered in a sterile lab. You do not need a $60 monthly subscription to a premium, aggressively marketed fertilizer company. You need a simple packet of yeast, a spoonful of sugar, some lukewarm water, and 30 minutes of quiet patience.
For decades, the massive agricultural industry has trained us to keep our heads up, to stare endlessly at the leaves, and to continually open our wallets. But the profound truth, the real, untamed power of the garden was always waiting for us underground in the dark. If this video finally pulled back the heavy curtain for you, if it fundamentally changed the way you look at the humble dirt beneath your feet, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. Here on The Rooted Life, we do not just skim the surface. We dig deep into the forgotten recipes, the raw biological truths, and the natural ancestral methods that the big box stores desperately hope you never discover. But do not leave the garden just yet, because the living yeast water you just learned how to brew is only half of the biological equation. It is merely step one. There is a second, equally powerful homemade biological mixture that works directly in perfect tandem with this one. When you pair them together in the same soil, the results stop looking like normal gardening and start looking almost supernatural. I made a full, step-by-step documentary breaking down exactly how to brew this second mixture, exactly how to apply it, and the precise, narrow window in the summer season when it strikes the absolute hardest. It is sitting on your screen right now. Click it next and let us finish the living ecosystem we started building together here today. Because pulling 2 average, forgettable tomatoes from a tired, struggling plant is merely a matter of luck. But pulling 20 massive, flawless tomatoes from a vibrant, living ecosystem, that is about knowing the ancient recipes the industry tried to bury. Go to the kitchen, brew the potion, water your plants tonight, and then I will see you in the next video. The true harvest begins right now.